hi to all attendees. And today I will be holding a short presentation on what we believe is the outlook of aircrew SEP training post-COVID-19. I've already been introduced. My name is Mark. Together with my business partner, we founded Dynamic Advanced Training. I had the luck to actually translate his ideas into reality, which meant that we had to design, plan, and fabricate, purchase equipment, and then install it, and now operate it. So without further ado, one thing, I am not actually a training professional per se. I'm not a pilot, and I'm not cabin crew, never have been, and possibly at this age never will be. So moving to our presentation. Dynamic Advanced Training, we're a member of Kansai Head Investment, and we shall move on to the first slide. Outlook on aircrew SEP training post-COVID-19. So can you, Lalitya, can you please spotlight me?
You spotlighted, Mark.
Right, fantastic, thank you very much. So just briefly about Dynamic, what I would like to do is start the presentation with a video. The video will give you a better understanding of how we approached reality-based training and what we've conducted. And a picture says 1,000 words, and a video says more than 1,000 pictures. So bear with me for 3 minutes just to give you an insight. And it will start in just a second. 1 second, please. Just a little bit of technology here. Can you see the video now?
No, we still can't see a video.
Wait 1 second, please, as we tackle technology.
Always lets you down, eh?
Well, Microsoft Teams is a little bit of a struggle sometimes.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. That's all.
1 second. The good thing is that in the trial runs it worked very well. So
always does, yeah.
2013, we sat down and decided to create Dynamic Advanced Training. We wanted to make sure that it was the most advanced safety and emergency
Got the video now, Mark.
in the world. We wanted to set new benchmarks, new norms in training. We wanted to entertain while we train. Conventional training at the moment can often be seen as a box-ticking exercise. We believe that the knowledge and the motor skills have to be synchronized.
In an effort to move away from traditional PowerPoint and classroom training, we've actually created some unique facilities and pieces of equipment that have never been done before anywhere in the world. So this includes full flight cabin simulators for business jets. We've also got a full flight cabin simulator for our Boeing 737 and Airbus A320 family of aircraft, and also a wide-body full-flight cabin simulator as well. We have a real firefighting simulator, which allows participants to experience the heat and the smoke of a real fire. We've got something very unique, and that is simulators that we use for survival training. The simulators that we have are for the jungle and also for polar regions. So you will actually experience training within a jungle environment or within a polar environment. And over a period of time, you need to apply certain skills and work together as a team. They're the hard skills, but we're also bringing out those soft skills. That is the communication, the teamwork, situational awareness, to be able to enhance the skills and abilities of participants. Because if that knowledge is then transferred effectively to the line, we have more effective workers on the line, and safer aviation overall.
As an independent aviation training provider, we actually have to be flexible. Our clients can come to us with whatever requirements they have. We can provide consultation. We will do a training needs analysis. We will adapt our curriculum to their specific needs. Being independent means that we can offer our facilities to the film industry. We can do leadership and management training with realistic scenarios. We can provide first aid, basic firefighting to non-aviation related entities. We can do pretty much whatever we deem is suitable and where there is economic value.
The vision that we have for the company is to do things that haven't been done before and to create a learning experience that's memorable, entertaining and fun, and that participants will want to come back and experience again and again.
Right. Okay. Well, that was just a short video. Now, please note this is not a sales event, but the video was to give you an understanding, and allows me to shorten the time later on. So, just a quick recap. Dynamic Advanced Training is the only and independent cabin crew training organization certified by the General Civil Aviation Authority of the United Arab Emirates. We launched in the middle of a pandemic, in the worst aviation crisis possible in July 2020. Our aim is to provide the highest possible standard of SEP training to aircrew, and we have created a facility which is possibly unequaled in the fidelity of the training equipment and the way the syllabus is given. As a one-stop shop SEP training facility, we have a combination of full flight cabin simulators, as we call them. So full flight cabin simulators touches on the fact that they have 6 degrees of freedom motion platforms. They are able to emulate all normal, abnormal, and emergency situations. We've got synchronized cockpit and cabin visuals, which allows for joint situational awareness. There's smoke and fire simulation. We have real-time slide inflation systems with auto inflation fail or manual inflation or total inflation fail, which leads to interesting training scenarios. In addition to the commercial side of the aviation, so on the aircraft, so the type side, we do A318, A319, A320, A321, A300, A310, A330, A340, A350, 737, 777, and 787. On the business aviation side, we have 2 business jet simulators. One of them is fixed base, but enabled for full motion, and the other one is on a 6 degree of freedom motion system. Now, these are unique to the world of business aviation. The closest ones would be in the United States, however, very limited in their capabilities. The business jet types that we can accommodate are the Gulfstream. So we have the classic elliptical shaped Gulfstream emergency overwing exit. Then we have the larger rectangular shaped G650 exit, which weighs 27 kilos and is a beast. We do the Bombardier Challenger and the Global also, and the Dassault Falcon. And at the moment, we are finalizing the Legacy exit. In addition to that, as a one-stop shop, obviously we have a real firefighting trainer where we can simulate different fires, galley oven fires, seat fires, so IFE fires, lavatory bin fires. We can do PED fires. PED fires, obviously, something that has emerged as a problem. Lithium-ion batteries. If you think of an A380 aircraft, you have 600 passengers on board. depending on the configuration, but 600 passengers, each passenger with 2 lithium-ion batteries, so they have possibly a laptop with them or a smartphone, maybe even a touchpad, and then you can imagine you've got 1,000 lithium-ion batteries on board with you. So we can train those scenarios. We have a water survival pool, and the water survival pool is not your standard mild-mannered pool. It's not the 6 Senses spa experience. It is a sea survival pool. So we can generate waves up to 1 meter. We can add 45,000 liters of rainwater per hour. It's got fog, it's got wind, it's got acoustics, and it's got lighting. And that's also a very challenging environment. We don't turn everything on at the same time. That would be detrimental to the learning outcome, but we can select it part by part. So on the moving away, and already as to alluded in the video, we have jungle and polar survival rooms. So instead of doing a post-crash scenario by watching a PowerPoint presentation, we actually take our participants, our trainees, into an actual environment after a crash, and let them experience how to put up a shelter, or how to protect themselves from the cold, depending on which environment they are in. And this is also very interesting. We get great feedback from this. It makes it interesting, and it makes it fun for the trainees. We also have a hypoxia simulator. So if you were lucky enough to have joined an air force, it's likely that they would have put you into a hyperbaric chamber, would have sucked the air out of it, given you some rather simple tests, actually. Well, they get simpler towards the end as the hypoxia, during the onset of hypoxia. But it can be interesting to see grown-ups using toys from a kindergarten, trying to put triangular shapes into a round hole, and actually failing. So we have a Normabaric hypoxia simulator. You get attached to a blood oxygen saturation sensor. We measure your heartbeat, your heart rate. We measure your breathing. We then administer hypoxic air in various oxygen quantities to you to simulate altitude. We take you through a neurocognitive test, and that's when you get to experience your own signs and symptoms of hypoxia in a mild form. So it's entirely safe, and if threshold values or if something were to go wrong, we can immediately administer oxygen to the participants. It's very interesting to experience your own signs and symptoms of hypoxia, and you wouldn't believe that the hypoxia signature is unique to a person, and it can differ so widely from one to another. This is not actually a training device. It's our cafeteria. We have a South African chef who can cook incredibly great good food, and the cafeteria overlooks the training hall, and it makes for a fun experience while you're sipping your coffee during a training break. So now, tackling the current deficiencies in SEP training as we at Dynamic see it. So the idea of this presentation, or the idea of this part, is not to ruffle feathers, but it is to be a little bit critical, and to sort of highlight a lot of the complaints that we've had from trainees in the past, a couple hundred, couple thousand, and our experience as well with the type of training that we are offering at the moment. Currently, as we see it, or as we know it, aircrew SEP training is incredibly theory-based, possibly at a ratio of 70% theory to 30% practical training. The reasons why that is the case is, well, hypothetical. Well, we think it's either a lack of or insufficient training equipment. There is a lack of customized training itself. And if we look at the corporate jet world, there is a total lack of purpose-built training equipment for corporate aviation. Another factor that we see is, we called it leniency. It may not be the correct word, but the leniency of aviation authorities governing rules. So if you think of ditching, although it's an unlikely scenario, but your ditch training as per the regulatory requirements are only once in a lifetime. Real firefighting once every 36 months. Door operations also once every 36 months. Now, many operators see this as not being enough and do choose to train more often, but the regulations themselves are quite relaxed in this regard. One of the biggest problems we hear is that cabin crew have called this kind of training repetitive, uninspired, and actually boring. Now, these are not my words. This is what we're being told, and the reason the reason of this complaint is apparently due to this heavy theoretical based training. A lot of PowerPoints again and again, and if you're lucky, you'll have a video. However, you'll have the same thing next year again and next year again, with little changes to it. And that results in this heavy theoretical training results in an ineffective transfer ratio of the knowledge and skills due to the lack of practice to the line. So with all these complaints, this perfunctory training results in crew actually not really taking it as an opportunity to learn more than they knew before, or to add to their skill set. So they complain about having to do the training. It's seen as almost punishment. And possibly now more prevalent now due to COVID-19. In the past year, there was a safety decision which was brought out, Safety Decision 2020-04, brought out by the General Civil Aviation Authority, but again, also done around the world by other civil aviation authorities, called the flexibility provision due to novel coronavirus. So in effect, in a nutshell, what this safety decision said was that no practical training would be required until there was a couple of months, but it's been extended 4 times, and now it finally became invalid on the 31st of March, so just exactly a week ago. But that means that within that 1-year time period, no practical training has been required. So with this heavy emphasis on theoretical training rather than practical training, we had to look at that and see what we could do. Another part which is, I beg your pardon, sorry, here we go. So legacy airline SEP training providers versus the needs of other operators. So, and this is not a fault, but this is just the way it is. I mean, legacy airline training centers focused on their own business needs. Yeah, they have their training is specific to their needs. Their equipment is specific to their needs. So they won't have any aircraft any aircraft training equipment which is not suitable for their fleet. Yeah. So in effect, third-party requests were accommodated, and within the airline training center, and but it didn't necessarily suit the operator's requirements. But being mandatory and without really much choice for some of the smaller airlines who don't have their own training, well, you take what you can get, literally. So, and especially now for the corporate and business aviation, this was where, for example, you would do your generic training. However, it would be in an A380 environment, whereas the aircraft that you're actually flying would fit into the cargo hold. So that's just a fact of how it was, and there's no fault in that at all. But that's what actually has happened. So we wanted to create a new training benchmark, a new global benchmark, and we called it reality-based training versus the heavy theoretical conventional-based training. So the question is, does the current way training has been conducted really suit the needs of an aircrew job, and does it give it enough attention? Are these needs included in the curriculum design? Why is the failure rate during a hands-on check so high? And maybe it is due to the fact that that there has been insufficient practical training. So the concept is aimed at constructing a learning progression with absolute minimum classroom time. So we've inverted more than inverted the 70 to 30%. We strive to do about 10% classroom training with the theoretical components as well, and then 90% hands-on, where the theory is, where the trainer actually also goes through the theoretical components as well, but in a practical training situation. As you could see from the video, the training equipment that we constructed is not just marketing material. It's not just using buzzwords. It is actually immersive. It is absolutely hands-on. It's practical and engaging, as well as the drills, and it's to emulate real-world possible scenarios. Then with this is also the proper application of CRM skills. So obviously from a cabin perspective now, not from necessarily entirely from a pilot, from a flight deck perspective, from a cabin perspective, is going through CRM training in an actual practical environment with real scenarios where there's nothing to lose. You can try out, you can see, you can experience where stuff works and where stuff doesn't necessarily work, and this can be highlighted to you. And this learning by doing environment in the feedback that we get is very well received. To be able to actually do that, our training professionals actually have to understand the requirements, or have to comprehend the required competency behaviors to actually educate and demonstrate to the trainees. I, again, am not a trainer, so this is left to my business partner to sort this out. But with those skills, they then have to be able to conduct performance and evaluate. They need to evaluate these skills adequately. And this can only be achieved in a learning by doing environment, where the training scenarios suit all the learning preferences, and this is where we believe we're on the right path. So we've also changed the concept of remedial training, and we've changed the concept of remedial training. So remedial training sounds like something is wrong, which it is, but we don't do the remedial training later on and bring somebody back as additional punishment. We do the training, the reinforcement training, instantaneously. So if somebody has a lack of knowledge or a lack of skills, immediately the instructors will jump in to top up their knowledge and to help them master their shortfalls, and it's all without threat. So in a non-punitive environment where after the training they have definitely grasped the concept. So in order to do that, and as already shown in the video, we have created previously non-existing training tools, as shown, for example, the survival rooms. So those used to be PowerPoint presentations. The Hypoxia simulator, again, a PowerPoint presentation. The We have an emergency vision assurance simulator. Actually, we haven't used it yet. It's just been completed yesterday. So that is where, if you have a smoke-filled cabin, a device will inflate in front of you. So even if you have an oxygen mask or and smoke goggles, but if you can't see in your cockpit, you can't see your instruments, and you can't see outside out the window, or at least your instruments. That puts you into a dire situation, which happened in 2011 with the crash outside of Silicon Oasis with the 747 with the lithium-ion batteries on board. So the EVAS is a very simple solution to this problem, but you need to be able to operate it in a high-stress environment. So we have an EVAS simulator. The sea survival pool you saw in the video, and on the RFFT, we have included a baggage compartment, so we can actually do a baggage compartment via, say, somebody had their lithium-ion batteries inside, or in a laptop inside their cabin baggage. It doesn't fit in a business jet. It ends up going into the baggage hold, possibly with a bit of weight on it or something along those lines. And if a fire starts, how do you deal with it? And then obviously the business jet cabin simulator that you've already seen. Consequently, our motto is always, we entertain while we train, and this is not just our motto, is we actually have fun doing it. Now, the potential, the current market status quo. Now, I won't bore everybody with this because we all know this quite well. But airlines had no choice but to right size during the pandemic. Redundancies, furloughs, the inactive fleet. We all know. We all have friends and family members who have gone through the situation. We all know that the borders were tightened up, and the outlook on 2021 has worsened. Currently, at the moment, even with the rollout of the vaccination, I saw today that there were 750,000 new infections today, which is close to the all-time high a couple of months ago. That results in ever-moving policies by governments and health institutions to protect their borders, and that may result in a sort of like a Mexican wave stop-start scenario when aviation starts to rebound, and it will rebound. But how that's going to happen, we shall see. So it's very likely that in 2021 the situation is going to stay tough. I do believe myself personally that it will be getting better. And I know from friends and family, there is definitely a pent-up demand, and I'd be one of the first people to hop on a flight given the opportunity. So the forecast is speculative, and anybody who says they know what's going to happen is literally, well, lying. And then, as mentioned previously, the waivers that have meant that for over a year there's been an absence of actual practical training, and that is actually the market situation as we speak. The potential future of outlook on training. So travel demand shall return, and training will need to be scaled up to accommodate, and this will inevitably result in staff costs growing faster than passenger growth. That's just the way it is. So airlines will have to adopt new norms, and they will have to focus really hard on reducing their costs to avoid what is literally a cash inferno. It's a bonfire, and they've had to rely on mainly a lot of government help. They've taken on loans from banks which need to be repaid, and it's going to be a tough situation. So they need to maintain their liquidity. So such measures will enable them to, if they find ways of saving costs, will enable them to concentrate on their core business to increase their revenue. And one of these solutions is actually the outsourcing of support functions where viable. with reliable partners. Again, this is not a sales pitch, but how could Dynamic assist? So the Dynamic has the ability to supply operators with trained and accredited crew, whereas the operator would only need to provide familiarization from an SEP perspective. Now, that hasn't always been the case, but with the new car CC regulations that came into effect last year, Dynamic, for example, as a cabin crew training organization or any other cabin crew training organization recognized by the GCAA or other aviation authorities, would be able to carry out the accreditation, the type rating, the accreditation, SEP, and one familiarization flight later, that cabin crew would be licensed. Obviously, the operators would need to include their own their own service training or their own rules and regulations, which, according to their own organization. But that's wouldn't be too difficult. We're able to respond to training needs promptly. We run 24/7 if required. And what we do as an independent training organization is we will customize our training to suit the operator's needs. So if we have your training manuals, we will customize our training to suit your specific requirements. And with that, we have the flexibility to fit into any operator's culture. So outsourcing is definitely a possibility that operators may actually have a look at to reduce costs and to assist in scaling up, ramping up again, in hopefully maybe in the third quarter of this year, maybe sooner if we're lucky. And I will just move on. Sorry, I keep forgetting this part of it. It's the technology is new to me. Now, possible trends. Now, this may annoy some people or may not, but it is something that can be considered. So operators may at some point dictate on applicants that they need to pay for their own initial SEP training. So it's not been done in this region before. However, in other parts of the world, it has been done. Outsourcing may move from optional to a must. And in order to do that, airlines may look for suitable but effective training partners. We at Dynamic are ready and capable to provide this training services to legacy airlines and other operators to meet the demands of aviation rebound. I will just move on, and with this I conclude my presentation. And I will now give back, I think, to the Royal Aeronautical Society, and we will move on to a question and answering session.
Thank you very much for